As you walk along the river near an unfinished bridge, a man with a tool belt catches sight of you. "Hey, over there," he calls out. "You look like you could use a quick way to get some hard-earned money." Hard-earned is right. The bridge hangs high over a perilous drop. "Great!" he exclaims. "Suppose you'll want a safety belt. We Thunderbird people don't need them. We fly when we fall." He chuckles. You find yourself up high, looking over the rushing river that crashes around the foundation of the bridge. As you work side by side, the man mentions, "You can see Thunderbirds up here if you know how to look." You ask him to explain. "Practice your peripheral vision, if you dare. Last thing you need up here is for them to see you seeing them and come swooping at you," he says laughingly. You only see the clouds thicken. It sure does pass the time working. The man pays you well when you're done with the job.
Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my tale.
The engines belch black smoke as the ferry churns gray water into froth. A broad-shouldered figure leans out over the rail, eyeing the skyscrapers on the horizon. Nearby, a man and a woman speak in low, urgent voices. He takes her wrist gently. She is weeping softly.
"I wish you didn't have to go,"
she says.
"There's got to be work on some of those buildings going up."
His thumb skates over her pulse point.
"I checked every day for a week. There ain't. I'll be back, though. Got your picture in my wallet, don't I? It's not forever."
Her words are split by a sob.
"Might as well be. My parents didn't come to New York for this."
She leans against him, the wind tousling her hair. He pulls her to his chest.
"I'm leaving because I gotta go. If there was another way..."
They stand together, close, quiet, in the stiff breeze.
Leave much behind to drag me down.
The hotel is an old manor house that's seen better days. A grand structure surmounted by a gambrel roof that dwarfs the house itself. It's eerily still, but for two boys at play. Each one so small and light, they barely leave tracks in the deep snow. The clerk behind the counter is old, and your room key is worn. But night approaches, and the price is low. Just before you shut the room door, there they are, the twins, staring at you from the corridor. In the morning, as you leave, the clerk asks, "Did you sleep well?" Too tired to lie, you tell him about the noise outside your door. The trampling of small feet on the corridor outside. the dreams disturbed with violent and hideous images. "That's odd," he says, weak-eyed. "There are no children staying with us."
Vagrant song.
You hear the whippoorwill first, shrill and close. Then you see him, high up above the black streaks of wires. A lineman, fraying belt holding him to the pole. A damned bird has come to perch on a power line, stare hungrily at the man's soul. He's unsteady. His hands are shaky, and his body sways in the wind. You spot his tool bag next to the pole, worn and frayed, much like the man. A half-gone bottle of cheap rye pokes out of it. You leave the man to his work and his vices. The whippoorwill cheers you on. Whatever it's waiting for from the drunkard lineman, it'll eventually get. Clouds roll together to fill the sky. You shelter beneath a rocky overhang. Above, the clouds turn gray and purple and blue. Lightning arcs between them. The hairs on the back of your arms stand on end. The lightning is so strong that it seems to open a path in the haze above you. You are sure you see massive talons curved around the clouds. The thunder is so immense that the ground trembles. Your lips and hands tingle from the electric charge that fills the air until the dancing lightning passes on over the hills. Outside the small thicket of apple trees, the phrase "tended to by John Chapman" is carved into a fence post. Nearby, a hound lies on its side, perfectly still. Flies buzz around its ears. But a grizzled man pauses at his digging to shoo them off. There's an extra shovel. With it, the two of you make short work of the grave. He tells you about his beliefs, why he's raising apple orchards in the middle of the country. "It's a sin to graft," he tells you. "Hurts the tree." Eventually, the hole is deep enough. He stoops to the ground and lowers the pup into the earth. Tears flow freely. "I'll see him again in heaven," he tells you. Our souls are bound by love. He wipes his eyes. I don't think I can bear to stay here, though. Maybe I'll sit out again. By nightfall, the hospitality of this sleepy hamlet, combined with their superstitious tales, has both overstuffed your stomach and filled you with a hollow dread. Folks say these woods are full of apparitions, witches, and worse. You curse yourself for getting on the road so late. In the moonlight, every valley and hollow at the feet of the Tappan Zee seems like a stolen shred of the abyss itself. Fireside tales seem less fanciful, and every cackling crow and moaning whippoorwill seems like a demon perched on the shivering, spindly trees. But something cuts through the noise. The muffled sound of hooves galloping on the cold, muddy road. When he finally slows his horse alongside you, it's as though he had just appeared out of the mist. He's astride a gigantic black courser, and though his boots are muddy and ragged, he wears an immaculate coat with great, shining buttons. From his saddle hangs an antiquated flintlock and a cavalry saber. In the darkness, you can hardly see above his towering shoulders. His voice is a rumbling croak, deep, but as though his throat is filled with thorns. Have you happened upon a cannonball around here? You can tell English isn't his first language. German is. His hand, so pale it's almost blue in the moonlight, grips the reins in a fist. Suddenly, you remember a story you heard, and you dash into the underbrush where the horse cannot follow, hearing a croaking sound that could be laughter. Over your shoulder, just for a moment, you see the headless rider hurrying on toward some forgotten battlefield. The stream is a clear, reflective shade of blue, unusual in this region where bog iron colors the river's brown. Across the way, a goat with great leather wings laps up the water, its sunken red eyes fixed on your every movement. You now notice the unnatural absence of wildlife. No fish swim in the stream. No birds sing in the trees. The winged goat drinks with a forked tongue, only abstractly concerned with your presence. Over the hill, a scorched one-room house lies abandoned, 2 of its 4 walls in ruins. The goat rears up, front hooves curled, and stretches its wings out to their full breadth. The winged goat doesn't follow. Instead, it lies down inside the burnt house, surrounded by portraits of a large family, glass frames stained brown from smoke.
My twin brother Paul and I always got into trouble, but we were good. We didn't do nothing to anybody till we left. Then we hurt a lot of people. Me, more so than Paul, because he didn't make it through. The march I was on, the bonus army, it's less a bonus and more an acknowledgement of what I've had to suffer. Civilians will never understand. Know any good jokes? I'm not so good at telling them anymore. Wish I could tell that one to my sister. Imprisonment? The more days I check off, the more I'm convinced that birth is an imprisonment. I must eat, so I must have money. I must have money, so I must work. It's an inevitable prison. So anyway, tell me a funny story? You seem like you know a few good ones. Yeah, Paul would have liked that one. Travel. Well, this walk feels like a little bit of freedom now and again. The flowers along the road make for fine company. You know any good jokes? I'm not so good at telling them anymore. Life ain't like that, in my experience. But I guess my experience ain't normal. My family. They were good to me. Ma and Pa. And to Paul. And to my sister Jessie. Some days I wish I could find Jessie again and have her help me. She always liked Paul best. Do you know any happy stories? Hopeful ones? I liked that one. There's some hope left for you too, you know. Don't give it away too quickly. The past doesn't even feel like it happened. It feels like it's happening in every moment, in every slumber. When your memories come back to you, do they clutch at you, at your heart? Tell me a happy story. Something to make the world seem kind. For a moment there, just a moment, I felt better about it all too. The future's the issue, ain't it? The Great War leaves us nothing to go back to, plucking up the hope and leaving us only with the vile and the unforgiven. Here's the sun. I've got to go. I'm headed up the road this way. Will our paths cross? Days come and go and the terrors return. They'll never be able to pay back what they owe me, but I'll always keep at it. What about you? Is there something somebody owes you?
The mailman's uniform is dated and worn. He sits on the edge of the road, head in hands. He looks up as you approach. "Can you help?" "Car clipped me. I think my leg's Well, I'd appreciate it if you could deliver this for me. He holds out a brown envelope. The letter's addressed to a James Gibson Sr., 120 J Street. But the city stymies you. The blocks run straight from I to K. You stop a man for directions, but he shakes his head and laughs. Someone's playing a joke on you. There's no J Street. Over here. A woman in a brown coat overheard your question. She steers you down an alley. Someone's chalked a big orange J on one wall. I thought Clovis was late. Go left up ahead. Old Man Gibson's the third on the right. As you round the corner, the world changes. J Street is a place out of time. Like the city forgot an entire street a century ago and carried on around it, oblivious. Even the noise and bustle of D.C. can't penetrate this little pocket. The man who answers is ancient and stooped. He peers at the letter. I think it's from my son. I don't see so well anymore. Will you read it to me? You tear the letter open. It isn't good news. He fights it, but his face crumbles. Tears roll down his cheeks. It's better to know. I've been waiting a long time for this. His shaking hand takes the letter. Thank you for telling me. A few wanderers like you are looking for a place to camp. We heard there's a Leatherman cave nearby. They tell you. They describe a locally famous vagrant who hiked this area for almost 30 years. He's dead now, but his caves are the best place to camp at any town. You and the other wanderers find the cave easily, because someone's lit a fire there. As you approach, you see a silhouette bend over the flames with an odd creaking sound, like a door swinging in the wind. His coat is crudely stitched from leather plates that squeak against each other. The Leatherman, one of the others whispers. A ghost. The Leatherman must have heard, but he just stares. His face is corpse still. He's eating, you say, and point out his can of beans. Je ne suis pas un fantôme, the Leatherman says, and adds, Idiot. Oh, bursts your companion. Canadien? Soon he and the Leatherman are deep in conversation, and your group has a safe place to rest. Muddling through the dark, you stumble into the path of the white deer. Its beauty strikes you at once. It is something otherworldly, beyond borders. a moon swimming in the void. Human shouts not far away break the spell. The deer's ears prick up. This thing is being hunted. You stay quiet while the hunters seem to near. You could swear, seeing subtle changes pass over the deer's face, that the animal is listening to the hunter's cries, thinking them over. After a moment, you watch it walk decisively down to the train tracks and lie there. It doesn't have to wait long.
Ooh.